Tell me about the good old days.
We were going to do a good old days this week. Do you remember what the subject was, Mr.
No,
Pacelli?
I don't. But
this
sure
was going to be
good.
about where we talk about the one that got away. You know, that old romantic thing, the one that got away. Are you blanking?
Yeah,
and I say basically,
keep in mind,
Netter's
going to be listening to this, so I gotta,
it's a toy, or in my case, a game system, which is in the toy family. I don't care what people say. That you didn't get. And you want me to go first?
Go ahead, because I know you had a topic in mind.
Okay, I never bought a Sega Dreamcast. Do we know what a Sega Dreamcast is, Mr. Pacelli?
I know what Sega is.
Okay, you know Sega's the Sonic the Hedgehog company. Okay, good. Yes. Well, they had been struggling a bit. They released the Sega Genesis, bit major popular. Then they released the Saturn, did not do as well, at least not over here in North America, Europe. So later on, they came out with the Sega Dreamcast. Okay, and this was the first of the big, beefier type consoles. We stopped calling them bits. We stopped referring to them bits, but it was what we would call a 128-bit console, unless someone in the chat wants to correct me on that. But 128-bit, it was of the same level as like a PlayStation 2, a Nintendo GameCube, or original Xbox. I consider it in that family. I don't care what people say. I think it's in that family. And when that came out, no one had seen graphics like that before. I had a Nintendo 64, which had about half the power, okay? Even though that was state of the art when it came out. And I was like, I'm not going to get one. I usually go with Nintendo consoles, but this one was tempting me. And before the next Nintendo system came out, I was seriously considering going over to Sega, switching sides. And then Sega of Japan announced they were basically canceling the Dreamcast, and it was folding up right before the new Nintendo system came out. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just stick it out with Nintendo then, since I was having a hard time deciding between the two of them. But
yeah,
I really do regret it, though, because it was just a neat little console. It had like these memory cards you could put inside it, and they would actually have like graphics on the memory cards where, like, if you're playing Resident Evil, like an eye would blink at you or something, or like you could even play like a little game on the little memory card you put in there. It was just a really cool system. It was only out for like 2 or 3 years, but it burned fairly bright. I mean, I'm thinking back, it had like the best version of the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Do you remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games?
I remember games? Tony Hawk's.
Okay, well, he had a series of video games that were very popular where you could be a skateboarder, and the Dreamcast had kind of the best version of those original titles. There was a Spider-Man game that released on all the consoles, but the Dreamcast got the better version of that, and it was cool because they even had Stan Lee doing the narration in it.
Nice.
I remember that there was an Evil Dead game that came out for it where they had Bruce Campbell's voice in it. I never got a chance to play it. Kind of kicking myself. All kinds of old school 2D fighting games, like a whole bunch of Street Fighter games and SNK fighters. The first Soul Calibur came out on it. That was like the weapons-based fighter where you use the swords and stuff. And all kinds of racing games. I really regret it. It even had a keyboard and mouse you could hook up to it, so you could play like first-person shooters properly, like Quake 3 and I think forgot what that other one, Unreal Tournament, I think, was on it too. And just, for the time, it was the first system that could do the I think that really pushed the online play. They had an RPG you could play online with other people online called Phantasy Star Online. And they even had, I think you could even use a microphone and a headset. I'm not positive on that, but very state of the art. They were the first ones to really push for the online play, and and of course there was Sonic the Hedgehog games, Sonic Adventure 2, where it was in 3D, like three-dimensional, 3D inside the game.
I gotta be honest with you, I sometimes struggled with some of those 3D games because I was so used to side scrollers. I could handle 2D, but as they started going to 3D, I couldn't quite get the dimensions right, and I'd be off and I'd run into things and I'd just swear like crazy.
Oh, interesting. Brian Gamart says, I actually hated playing Resident Evil on Dreamcast. Remember the D-pad being prone to errant diagonals, which always led me to getting dogpiled by zombies. Oh, that's interesting.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, though. Yeah.
No, because I had Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64. They actually brought it out for the Nintendo 64, which was a miracle they could get a game like that on a cartridge because it had full motion video, not full motion video, like CG video, but it had video and dialogue. They were able to compress it onto an actual cartridge, which was unheard of because everything else was on CD-ROM,
Yeah.
But the cool thing about Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64 was that you had a big old D-pad, so you could just go around and But you didn't like the 3D stuff, huh?
Okay. Well, not that pseudo 3D. Eventually, they finally figured it out and it became a little bit more intuitive. But I'm talking that kind of diagonal 3D that was like Zaxxon and the Return of the Jedi video game.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
I hated those. I wanted to love those, but the dimensions were just not right. The depth perception was off. I think eventually when we got to the first person shooters, it got a little bit better. You start getting into even the Doom, which was the pseudo first person, where it doesn't really go 3-dimensional, but it gets bigger and smaller.
Oh yeah, you can still get Doom today though on your current systems.
I love that.
I have it on my I have it on my Xbox. You can get it on PC still. And
so this Dreamcast, you never had an opportunity to get it.
Never bought one, and I'm not even going to try buying it now because I'm looking at the prices of some of these games. Oh, Power Stone 2. How much is that? $649. Okay, no, thank you. If I wait around long enough, they might do a Dreamcast Mini like they used. How they bring out the mini Sega Genesis, the Mini Super Nintendo. It could happen. Plus, I'll be honest with you, I had a GameCube and I had a PlayStation 2. So any Dreamcast games that got ported over, I bought on those systems anyway. So did you have a one that got away?
As I was thinking about this topic, I know nobody in the stream is going to like me for this. I'm spoiled. I really do have a very special woman in my life who has made sure that if I have any of those kinds of regrets, she has found some way to meet them. And I even did a whole video about what I would have considered to be, and I'm dropping a link for those of you that might be interested. The big one that I had thought had gotten away, Jabba's Sail Barge, the Hasbro HasLab exclusive. This huge playset / vehicle for the 3 3/4-inch Star Wars action figures. I did not find out about it until after the HasLab Kickstart had closed already, so it was too late. There was no way to get this thing. It originally was going on Kickstarter for $500, and if you didn't get in on it, you missed out. The only way to get it was, on the secondary market, somebody that bought 2 of them or something like that and sold one, and usually they were going for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and I'm like, that just sucks. And when I found out about it, I was doing everything I could, and I'm like, Netter, can you do your Google Foo? Is there anything we could do? And she's looking, and there was a couple of great intending people out there that were offering it for near cost, but they were only offering it for people outside the United States because people outside the United States didn't even have an option to get this thing. If you weren't in the continental United States, you were not getting this thing.
Wow.
For any price. So they were offering it we got it for this price. All you got to do is pay shipping. We'll send it to you. And so she says, yeah, it's not working. And a year later, for our anniversary, she says, I need you to take me up to the Wisconsin border. I ordered something and we got to go pick it up. And I go pick it up, and it's the Kitana. It's the sail barge. Yeah, it cost us about $1,000, twice as much. The guy made 100% profit on it, but he was nice. He threw in some action figures that were appropriate to the barge that didn't originally come with it, like Slave Leia with the turret, that goes on top of the thing, and Vizan, who is one of the skiff guards that comes with a gun that clips onto the side. I mean, it was specifically made to go with the sail barge. An R2, a 3PO, some other aliens, Gamorrean guards and whatnot. That was pretty cool of him, I thought. So yeah, I was able to score the one that I thought I absolutely could not get. And she has always been after me. Is there anything else that you can think of that you don't have that you really want? And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm fine. Even toys, like, what are the holy grails of action figures, right? You think Boba Fett with the rocket firing option, right? Well, that never came. That didn't actually really exist. There was like 2 or 3 prototypes, but it wasn't mass marketed. So it's not like it was really truly available. And since then, they have done updated versions, homages to it. And there's even been fan creators that have done rocket firing Boba Fett's in the style of the original, as it would have looked back then, as it looked in the prototype pictures, as it would have looked if it came from the holiday special, that color scheme. So I think I feel like when it comes to those kinds of things, I really live in an era where if I was a purist, I'd kind of be screwed, but I'm not that much of a purist. Another one would be the Blue Snaggletooth. If you don't know what the Blue Snaggletooth is, back in 76, 77, the Sears catalog had one of the early releases for the Cantina aliens. You could get the 4 Cantina aliens that they had at the time: Greedo, Hammerhead, what was it? Greedo, Hammerhead, Walrus Man, and Snaggletooth. But the Snaggletooth that came with the playset, and it was really just a cardboard standee of the outside of the cantina, was a full-size blue character, because they were working off a black and white drawing of Snaggletooth, and they had no idea what color the suit was or how tall he was. So they made him as tall as all the other figures. When that hit the market, Lucasfilm told them, no, he should be shorter than all the other figures and in a red outfit. So they changed it in subsequent ones. But yeah, that Blue Snaggletooth was out there, and that became like the holy grail for so many people. It goes for over $1,000 for an original one, just the figure, not the figure with the play set and all of that kind of stuff. Well, since then, Stan Solo has started doing reproductions of it that are obviously not the same one, because it's got his mark on the back. You can't swindle someone and say this is an original, because it says Stan Solo 2020 on the back. But but in every way, it looks and feels like the original figure, and it costs $40. That's still kind of expensive for an action figure, but for a boutique custom figure that's that quality, I'd say that's a great price. And so I got one. He also made a reproduction of Yak Face. He was a character from the Sail Barge that was only released in the final, what was it, the final 17 or whatever from after Return of the Jedi. That was Yak Face was only released in Canada. We didn't get him in the United States, so nobody got him.
Why not?
Well, it was just distribution. It was a bad distribution model. So I never got it. Nobody I knew had it. Big bummer, right? But this for $40, I can get a reproduction of it. I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. I am not a purist who has to have the, I've got a, first edition original 1981, whatever, to screw that, I want it loose. I want it to display, and I'm happy with it. So those are some of the things that you could say were, the ones that got away, but I've done just fine for myself.